that was gonna happen. Hey everyone, my name is Emily. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about what I'm currently reading, what I just finished reading, and books I am planning on reading in August. This is not going to be a cumulative list of everything on my TBR list for August, but it's hard for me to make TBR lists other than just books I want to read in general, and then I kind of just go based on what I'm in the mood for. Now that my library is doing curbside pickup, I've been able to plan ahead slightly because I'm just putting books on hold that I want to read. So I'm going to start with books that I just recently finished reading this past week or so. So first, on books that I recently read would be I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou. Going into it, I didn't really have any expectations. I didn't really know what it was about. With a lot of classic lit, I do my best to not know too much about it and just kind of let the story unfold and take me, especially if it's a really famous book. If I am very unfamiliar with the plot, I prefer to just read it and see what happens. That's kind of what I did with this book. As far as I know, this is an autobiography, and it was a really beautiful, moving story. Just very eye-opening and showing us how far we've come and yet how far we still need to go in terms of civil rights for Black people in America. Because as much as this is definitely a book of its time, it is still very much something that we can talk about and relate to today. There is a little bit of graphic content in here, so definitely a warning if you are someone who could potentially be triggered. Racial tension, sexual abuse, overall aggression, domestic violence. It's not an overwhelming part of the plot, but it is definitely a key element in Maya Angelou's story, and something that I think you should be made aware of before going into it. Beautiful story, I loved it a lot, and I'm so glad that I read it. Next up on my most recently read was one that I was really excited to read. As a lot of you know, Beauty and the Beast is my favorite story, favorite musical, favorite movie, favorite everything, and it is a personal life goal of mine to read as many Beauty and the Beast retellings as I can. I know that is probably the dumbest thing, but it's true. So, A Curse So Dark and Lonely. I was really excited about this. I will tell you, I was not disappointed. I mean, to be completely upfront, it's a Beauty and the Beast retelling. It is exactly what it says it is. I personally loved Harper as a main character. I'm probably going to do a whole video on all of the retellings I've talked about and go more in depth with what I really liked and disliked about each one, but long story short, I really loved Harper. I loved the dynamic between Ren and Gray. I thought that was really crazy interesting. I like that even though romance is an element to it because it's a Beauty and the Beast retelling, it isn't the super main focus for me, at least. I didn't feel it. I also thought that Brigid had a really good way of making it a slow build, and it wasn't something that was just kind of thrust upon us. There was a journey with it. There was a journey. I loved the plot. I loved the world building that she created in it. I thought it was really well written. So after I finished this, I immediately wanted to read A Heart So Fierce and Broken, and immediately checked my library and they had it. And so I don't own the book. I read it through the library. I already returned it, and so I don't have it with me, but I read A Heart So Fierce and Broken, which is the sequel to A Curse So Dark and Lonely, and it takes place in the point of view of Gray, who is Ren's commander of the guard. And so I'm definitely not going to talk too much about the plot because it is a sequel and I don't want to have spoilers about anything, but I really enjoyed where this series was going. So it made me really excited for the third book, and then I found out that it wasn't coming out until January, which broke my heart. I haven't read a series where the next book hasn't come out since middle school, high school. I don't know what to do with myself. I'm just waiting for this next book to come out. I think I read the two of these books in 3 days total, because I finished A Curse So Dark and Lonely and immediately went on my library's website, picked up A Heart So Fierce and Broken the next day, and then finished it by the next night. I really liked it. Then, after I finished reading A Curse So Dark and Lonely, I was on a Beauty and the Beast kick, and long story short, I owned this book. This was a reread. I needed something quick that I would read that I knew I would enjoy. I reread Lost in a Book by Jennifer Donnelly. This is a, I don't know exactly what you would call it. I wanted to call it like a companion book, but it's not really. It's basically take the 2017 live action Beauty and the Beast, and this is like a story that she put within the story. I'll go more in depth in a later video with a lot of these books, but yeah, great book. Finished it in a day. I knew I would, so. Next, and last on my recently read is A Court of Thorns and Roses. I actually finished this book last night at like 11 o'clock because I just needed to finish it. I'm not gonna say that it didn't live up to the hype, but it was definitely different than I thought it was going to be. So it's another Beauty and the Beast retelling. As I said, this is like literally all I read. There's definitely something wrong with me. If you haven't read this book, the main character, Feyre, is a human girl. Her family's starving. She hates her family. She doesn't hate her family. Her sisters are kind of cruel to her. That part actually was really similar to the original telling of the story, which I really appreciated. It's just me. Accidentally kills a fairy and is taken to live out the rest of her days among the fairies. They are shapeshifters, magical, beautiful. I really like the way that Sarah J. Maas writes. I really appreciate the way that she writes. It was a lot heavier on the romance than I expected it to be. And I knew that there was going to be romance in it because everyone on TikTok and BookTube who talks about this book talks about like the way that Sarah J. Maas writes the romance. However, there was some spicy scenes in there that I was not prepared for. And I was like, this is a little spicy. Really enjoyed it. Finished it last night. Really liked the ending and the way that the ending worked. If you read this book, we can talk about it. I'm super down. And also, I know this book came out before A Curse So Dark and Lonely, but it's hard to not compare the parallels between like the three main characters of each, because it's very clear that Feyre and Harper are very similar individuals, and that Tamlin and Ren are very similar, and that Lucian and Grey are very similar characters. So I will get into that on a later date. Okay. So now we are moving on to what I am currently reading. After finishing A Court of Thorns and Roses last night, I immediately picked up the sequel because I had gotten it from the library and it wasn't late enough that I needed to go to sleep right away, so I just picked it up. I'm on like chapter 3 or 4 and literally 2 chapters in, another spicy scene. I am very much looking forward to see where this story is going, but I think my library has like the series, so I'm just gonna kind of keep trucking along and hopefully it continues to be as good as I hope it is. Next, starting on Friday, I will be reading Gone Girl for the first time. My friend Logan, who is the Bi Book Boy, shout out to Logan, love you. We are going to be reading Gone Girl together actually for the first time. I know nothing about this book. I know nothing about the plot. He has seen the movie, I have not, and we're just gonna kind of read it together and kind of discuss as we go along. I'm really excited. I love thrillers and everyone says how good this one is, so I'm very excited. Next, going into what I am looking forward to reading in August, I will be reading the Legacy series by Marie Lu. I had a big dystopian phase in high school and kind of fell out of it before I got around to reading this. It was suggested to me by a lot of my good friends to read it, so I'm very much looking forward to it. I own 3 of the 4 books, so I will have to probably go to my library for the 4th one, but very excited about that. I hear it is really good, so I am pumped. I will also be reading Wicked by Gregory Maguire. I started this book a year ago and kind of fell off the train, and I am very much determined to finish it out, so I will be reading it this month. One of my main goals for the rest of this year and like just forever is to purposefully seek out authors of color to read that celebrates people of color. And so also this month I'm reading Felix Ever After by Kacen, Callender. Don't know too much about it, but it was very highly reviewed by Nick Stone in an article that I read. And the other one is Once Ghosted, Twice Shy by Alyssa Cole, another book on that same list that Nick Stone had written, and I'm a big fan of Nick Stone's work. I trust everything that she says. an amazing woman, amazing author, amazing everything. I'm very much looking forward to reading both of those books. They are both on the way to my library. Obviously, if you guys have any book racks, feel free to comment them down below. I will put them on my list. This is hopefully not the entire list of books I read this month. I'm planning on reading as much as I can. This is just kind of what I'm looking forward to right now. If you enjoyed my video, please like and subscribe. I try to post a new video every week. I'll see you next time. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.